Alright, so today we're going to do a blue tongue skink setup. What I've already done is put in the bedding. The blue tongues really like burrowing, so I've put in a thick layer of shredded aspen. There's some colored aspen in here, which is chipped a little bit differently than the regular shredded aspen. Some people prefer to use exclusively this kind of shaved aspen compared to this stuff. It really doesn't matter. In the end, your blue tongue's going to be able to figure it out either way. And then as long as you're careful when you feed them, put a dish in there or something, they're not really going to eat a whole lot of the bedding. This size cage is perfect for one adult by itself, and you can also start out a baby like the one I've got. You can start a baby in a cage this size, but you just have to make sure you keep a really close eye on it, because obviously a baby this little is going to get a little bit lost in a cage this big. This one is a little baby Irian. And then I also regularly bring in my adult. This is an adult northern, so he's of a size that would do well in this size tank. But we're going to keep this little guy. So the first things first is obviously just setting it up. We're going to put in a water bowl and then a couple of different things for him to hide in. So basically he's so cute. So basically what you want is you want to create an area that they can go over and bask. The top of this log here, what it would do is give them an area where they can climb up on and get closer to the heat light. The distance here is about a 6-inch difference between the top of the tank and the top of this basking spot. For a little bitty baby like this, you can get a flatter piece of cork and get it, a little bit closer so that it can get that much closer to the light, but in most cases this should be just fine. The lights that I prefer using for blue tongues are mercury vapor bulbs, and then for nighttime, if your house is cold, a nocturnal infrared light. These, you can put in a fixture such as this. Usually a deep dome is preferred when you're using a mercury vapor bulb, just because it does have enough space within the dome that the bulb itself isn't going to overheat. And the reason I prefer the mercury vapor bulbs the most over any other kind is because they produce so much more UVB and heat than any other kind. And they also provide it in a much more natural way. The animal is getting both its heat and its UV from one bright white light source, which is very much like what the sun would be. In most cases, that's pretty much it. That's perfect. Now the second part, setting up a blue tongue is really pretty easy. You just put some stuff in the cage. They're a very smart, very interactive animal that does well if you switch up the cage and give them new things to do. So actually try and keep a few different things on hand. Once in a while, switch up your basking spot and give it a half round, and maybe just put your half log in a different position that is a little bit different for them. They're a very smart animal and they do well with this kind of cage enrichment. The other super fun thing about blue tongue skinks is what you can feed them. They will literally eat everything. My adult blue tongues at home, I have northerns, will eat the Zoomed mix-ins. This is fruit. They also eat the different tortoise and monitor foods. Now the monitor food I use as a high protein source rather than dog food. You can see online that some people will recommend feeding canned dog food. I prefer to feed a high protein food source that's actually designed for reptiles rather than one that's designed for a mammal like a dog. That's a personal preference. If you really want to do dog food, it is definitely an option for you to go online and to do your own homework and your own research on it. But my personal recommendations and what I personally do at home, I use stuff like this for my protein in addition to young rodents and insects such as crickets, mealworms, superworms. In addition, I also do the Nature Zone, the various bites. These are box turtle bites. I've also used the tortoise bites, the beardy bites, the aquatic turtle bites, the iguana bites, literally all of it. With a blue tongue skink, variety is your best friend. The more stuff you can give them, the better. Keep in mind, I also don't give this to them all in one sitting. I actually mix it up. I might do, the tegu food, a can of that, some bites, and maybe a can of superworms one day. And then the next time I'll mix it up and add just the omnivorous lizard food. Or I'll even do the juvenile bearded dragon bites. My blue tongues at home eat this stuff like it's candy, and it's full of nutrients, minerals, and vitamins in addition to basically good calories. That'll keep them full. And if you're going to be gone and you don't have time to go to the store and get fresh food, this stuff works extremely well at keeping them full and happy. In addition to the normal worms and mice and all that kind of stuff, there's canned snails and canned caterpillars. These blue-tongued skinks in the wild actually eat a ton of different insects and bugs, including snails. And these in particular are one of the most popular food items my skinks have. I use it to entice them to eat. I basically at home, what I do is I mix the snails in with fresh leafy greens, which are another good thing to incorporate into their diet, and that basically entices them to eat what, for most skinks, is the least tasty part of their diet. And I also, for mine at home, give them a good calcium. I mix it up between the LLLReptile and the Repashy Calcium Plus. The last thing is that for this little guy, for a northern blue-tongued skink, there's not a whole lot different you're going to need to do for the whole cage, but for a baby like this, which is Tiliqua gigas gigas, it's a more tropical subspecies, so it's going to require more humidity. So with the aspen like this, you're going to need to mist it down at least once a day, maybe just a couple times a week depending on where in the country you're at. Someone in Florida might not need to mist it at all. I know that here in California we do need to spray it down for our tropical subspecies of blue tongues. And that's it. That is a basic blue tongue skink setup.